I best describe what we do as wrestling with chokes and joint locks. Everyone thinks we punch and kick people, which Muay Thai we do, but our main focus is Jiu-Jitsu, and there's no punching or kicking. You could, it's easy to add in, but it's mainly about ground positional control and being able to defeat a larger opponent. I came down to Des Moines back in 2000. I didn't know anyone in the town. I came down because my wife went to Iowa State, and I worked for a consulting company. Basically, he owned a consulting company for computers and then also had a martial arts school that he taught at night. He said, hey, I do the same thing that Royce Gracie does in the UFC, and he was built just like me, about 170 pounds, skinny, and I'm like, I could do that. And so a week after I started at the consulting company, I started at the martial arts school.
I started training with Chris a long time ago, back when he was a white belt. Even then, the impact on me that he had at that time is through martial arts, the purity of it, the idea that a common man can be able to defend himself against the bigger, stronger, faster guys. And Chris embodied that from the very first time. He was always one of the smallest guys in the gym, so he was always able to handle himself pretty well. I've asked him questions on certain techniques. Hey, I'm having problems with this, and I'm having problems with that. He's always taken the time to sit with me and show it to me. And I'd say a large part of the success that I've had in the cage, because Chris David's been there, been part of my background over the years, you know, over a decade of us training, and without him, I don't know where I'd be.
And then I started training. They trained 2 nights a week for 45 minutes a night, and I did it for about 6 months, and sort of fell in love with it, that, you know, a little guy could beat up a big guy and, you know, defend himself. So after that, I went down to California for about a week. We did about 40 hours of training in 1 week, and I got my blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu, and then it sort of all took off from there. I wanted to train more. I started to train out of my garage. I started to train in other people's basements. I was starting to hear about different places you could learn from, and so I started going to different seminars around the Midwest, getting training in my garage with one of my other buddies who started and sort of got hooked as well. We got up to where we're basically training 5 times a week in my garage, and my wife said, you're gone. You can't train in the garage. People are looking at you in your funny pajamas from across the street as we're choking each other. And so then we paired up with a judo school. There was an old firehouse that we had a back room with some mats up on some floating platform, which was tires and then plywood and then mats. Basically, I'm like, okay, we can get 5 students paying $40 a month, and we're covered. We can just keep training like we were before, and people just kept coming. They wanted to turn the building into apartments, so they kicked us out and we moved downtown. I think before we moved, we had close to 45 students. So then we got a little bit bigger space, didn't have any parking. We built the same setup with tires and mats. The interest was still there, and it kept growing until we had about 100 some students in 2010. And we decided we needed to get to a little bit bigger place where we weren't running into walls and poles. And our place down on 6th Avenue was only about 1,200 square feet. And if you have classes of 20, 25 people, it was pretty tight. So we moved to a gigantic 10,000 square foot space, and now we have room for 50 plus people on the mat at one time.
When he opened up this gym, this was the place to come to, the best facility in town. Chris has given everybody the opportunities to pursue whatever they're looking to do, whether it be just for fitness or for fighting.
I've actually studied down in Clarksville, Tennessee for several years and got my blue belt down there. Coming back here in Iowa, where I'm originally from, I'd study the area, study the gyms in the area, try some of them out. Word of mouth, where the best place to train is. Hands down, this was the best place to train.
It's grown tremendously. We've gone through some growing pains. Started out with about 6 guys on a regular basis. We've grown into 150, 160 members now. It's a giant family. Everybody here knows everybody. We spend a lot of time getting to know each other during class. I mean, you don't know somebody till you've tried to choke them or break their arm. So, you know, for us, that's a pretty regular occurrence.
I just sort of fell into teaching, I guess. When I was going and I had my buddy and we were training back and forth, to get good training partners to keep getting better, since there was no instruction in town and we had to fly to get to instruction or drive hours and hours, we had to build up students and build up competition within our own school. And that just helped by students teaching students and me and other instructors just teaching people along the way. Most of the time when I'm on the mat with the students, pretty playful. I like to teach. I like to go just above their level to keep them striving to get better, but not to make it a cakewalk. So it's going to be a struggle for them every time. But that's how they learn.
It started out early on, him being my instructor, and you know, after that, it slowly started developing a basic friendship. Since then, I actually consider him one of my closest friends. He is somebody that taught me things I didn't know. So it was interesting. He gave me opportunities to do things I didn't think I was capable of. So, one of my better friends.
First started here, he was very welcoming, as he is to a lot of new students. He was extremely humble, which is indicative of a good instructor, I think. And he really brings kind of a playfulness to Jiu-Jitsu, which I think is desperately needed. New people can come in and get intimidated very easily, and you need somebody like Chris in here to have that big smile and be very inviting and treat a white belt like they're a black belt in terms of respect, and he's always done that.
When I met Chris, you know, everyone always talks about Chris, you know, and how dangerous the guy is, you know, as far as all his techniques and everything, you know, and when the first time that I actually got to meet him, he's, you know, kind of quiet and, you know, doesn't look like a huge threat, and then you see him on the mat and it's a very, very humbling experience, to say the least.
If I'm competing, it's a different mindset. I'm going to hurt the other person, because basically that's the goal, is you have to make someone give up. And so if you have an attitude anything less than I'm going to absolutely make you quit, you yourself will get hurt. So that's the attitude. Competition is way different than training. So 99% of the time in training, everyone's 100% until the end, and then you release. So competition, it's 100% until someone tells you to release. So first is because of Jiu-Jitsu. I love doing Jiu-Jitsu. I started it pretty selfishly. It was for me, and then I needed training partners to get better at it. So I built it for me to get better. And then after I started seeing how much other people got out of it by teaching them, and they went through the same thing I did, I just never made that correlation. Both benefits are pretty big to me. My own Jiu-Jitsu career, because I still love doing Jiu-Jitsu for me and figuring out problems, but also like helping other people go through the same path that I have and really experience Jiu-Jitsu. And it's a release too, because to be able to do something so physical where you know at any moment you could be seriously hurt or you're just playing around, it gives you a lot of body awareness, self-awareness, and it's a pretty intense feeling. I don't know how to really describe it in words. So I want to keep teaching people Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know what the best way to do that is. I'm still experimenting to say, is it a large group atmosphere? Is it more smaller private groups? But I think it's more exploring teaching. Exploring Jiu-Jitsu is curiosity. It's what sort of keeps me going in it more than anything else. It's really a community atmosphere, because you learn a lot about yourself and the limits you have, and being able to put someone at the edge of their limits. You really gain a really unique friendship when you hold, you know, they trust you completely that you're not going to break their arm or twist their leg. And to have that kind of trust and respect with someone is incredible for friendships. And so a lot of the friendships that people have out of this place is really tough to understand from the outside.